So we'll see people joining us. Oh, and the recording as well. Fantastic. And then we'll also, we have the Q&A panel that will be open, but I think the chat panel is probably the easier for teams to ask questions as they are coming up. I see people joining us. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, everyone.
I'm going to stay as a bit of a shadow maybe in the background, but jump in at certain points. But your host is Dennis, and Wilson will be tackling a lot of the hard questions. Hopefully you won't send any hard questions, difficult questions to me, but I'll be here for any support. And
Hi.
Dennis, we see your screen. I can see people attending. I'll hang out in the background right now, but everything looks like it's working.
Yes, great. Thanks, Clive. Welcome, everyone. This is episode 2 of our joint webinar series of this UCTS CAD and Plenary joint webinar series in partnership with BSI. Today, we are very privileged to have a very special friend with us, Mr. Wilson Ong, who will be answering some questions that we have collected from the previous training series. So this is episode 1 that you can watch the recorded version of this webinar through the link that is shown in front of you. This was on air on the 6th of July. So now today we are going into episode 2. So episode 2 is all about questions, and I would like to throw some questions to our BSI panel, and then we'll hear from Wilson how his view is about this. So when it comes to questions, a lot of us will be thinking about hard questions. Today we are throwing a little bit hard question, but more questions will be on an easy side, which I found during our training. We still have some of these questions. So let's start with our first questions. Wilson.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So I think I just have to give myself a very short introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Wilson, and I'm the sector lead for the BIM environment for BSI, which stands for the British Standards Institution. So, and I would like to thank Dennis and also Clive for inviting me as one of the panelists to answer these questions. All right. Okay, so I believe one of the main questions that everyone might be asking. Okay, so BIM is actually commonly known as building information modeling, and so why do some people actually call it building information management? Okay, so the right terminology for BIM is building information modeling, so that is something we can't change. But why do some people call it building information management? Okay, so the reason behind it is sometimes it's called management because the word modeling often confuses, and so that is actually one of the reasons why we look into BIM as a 3D model, and full stop, nothing else. But actually, BIM is much more than that. So that's why there are many people in industry which derives BIM as building information management. So what we are actually focusing on is the information management side, and that is mainly what is BIM about. It's about the processes, it's about the people, not only just on the technology, but you have to look into the whole term holistically. So if you wish to actually know more about this, you can actually see the image in our website. So BSI, we are also one of the one that is heavily involved in the ISO 19650. Partly because the ISO 19650 it is from the British standards, which is from BSI. Okay, so these two standards are actually very similar, just some change in the terms. So in our website we actually have quite a well-defined definition. Okay,
Yes.
So just to recap, building information modeling is the right word for BIM, but we call it building information management because most people, they would like to emphasize on the word information management, not only just on the modeling. So
Yes.
that is why.
Yes, thanks.
There's also, just to add to that, there's the Better Information Management acronym. So still BIM, but better information management. And as it's all about information management, improving the connection between companies and being able to define the right information at the right time, it's that improvement, that betterment of information management. I like that one as well. So certainly something else to think about when you think about BIM.
Yes, yes, correct. Totally agree on that.
Yeah, I believe we all agree to that information management. Now, when we look at into BIM, we always look into it. BIM will benefit us in this in many ways throughout the construction process and even throughout the planning process. Now, we understand all these benefits, but now we are looking into how will this BIM actually help us in the economy recovery of our construction industry, especially now in pandemic. The entire globe is facing it. So what is your opinion about this? How will this improve our current situation if we use BIM?
All right. So I think in the subject of pandemic is actually pretty grim in Malaysia right now. Yeah. So especially with the political change, with the high number of cases. Yeah. So what you see in front of you is basically just the very basic benefits that everyone is saying. Why BIM is actually good. Yeah. So faster delivery, reduced costs, more sustainable, and so on. Yeah. But what I would like to touch on is actually one good thing that actually came out from the pandemic. Okay, so just this one good thing. All right, it actually forces us to move ourselves into how we communicate digitally. Okay, so instead of using hard copies, instead of having face-to-face meetings, yeah. So it actually expedite the construction industry to actually collaborate better. Yeah. So they actually see. I think most of the companies I've talked to, they actually find a very good advantage in using a common platform into how they actually exchange information. Okay, so I think in the audience, most of you guys are in the construction industry. Communicating during the pandemic is quite a challenge. Yeah, because you have to you can't see each other face to face. You can't actually ask for written signatures and so on. Yeah, but actually the better way is to actually do it digitally. Yeah. Why digitally? Digitally is traceable. Okay, so you can actually form a very good process. If you're using a strong platform, you can actually have a good process to actually authorize, verify the like the information. Yeah, so everything will be you basically what you are doing is actually especially during the pandemic is we are digitalizing our the way how we work. Yeah, so that is one good thing from the pandemic. And I see yeah, during the post pandemic, after when all of this actually gets better, yeah, you can see actually more and more people will be doing things in a digital platform. Yeah, so yeah, so that is how I see things. Yeah, so people are actually seeing the advantage of working in a digital environment. Yeah, so and after the pandemic, they will see this as a huge advantage. So it's really expediting everything. Yeah.
Yes. Collaborating through digital platform, I think this is one of the very important aspect that we should be looking at, because we are looking at social distancing most of the time. And while social distancing, we have to make sure that our operations is still going on, especially when we're dealing with planning stage, coordination stage among players, among the appointed parties, in the BIM work team. So let's look into. We still have this kind of questions in our training. So a lot of people may still think that BIM is all about software and using a software to carry out certain tasks like modeling, rendering, animations, and even creating drawings. So is BIM actually still, is BIM a software? I think this is one of the questions that I would like to address. And if it is a software, we have our existing software, why should we still need BIM? This is one of the questions that I always get in the training. So what do you think?
Yeah, okay. I think first thing we actually need to understand what is a software and what is BIM. Okay. So to put it short, I can say the software is part of BIM. Okay, and the software is one of the tools for BIM. Okay, so maybe a few examples like the like Revit, which is the authoring tools, which is authoring tool software. Yeah, so this is one of the tools for BIM. Okay, so these two works hand in hand. Yeah, so yes, uh, BIM, the software is BIM, but a software is not the only thing about BIM. Okay, so I hope you actually get what I mean. So you have to look into the bigger picture. Yeah, because if you look into the I think in the previous question asked, yeah, modeling is just not only one aspect about BIM. Okay, there's a lot of many other elements to it. Okay, so I think even the software, so it has many aspects like the 3D modeling, uh, rendering, animation, and other form of like automated calculations. So this all of these are actually all of the different tools that we can better automate how we generate information. Yeah. So yes, it is part of BIM, but it's just not only the main aspect about BIM. Yeah. So there is actually much more other things that has to be considered in order to maximize and to get the full benefits of using this framework. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe,
Yeah.
yeah. When we talk about modeling, I always think of modeling as what the practice is saying. In the BIM practice, we always call it as a graphical informations, which contains the forms and all that. But there's another
Yes.
part of it, which is the non-graphical
Yes.
data
Correct.
and information that we have to look into.
Yes.
So,
Correct.
so
Yeah.
it is more than just a software.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
this non-graphical information actually is all stated in the ISO 19650 just for your information. Yeah. So or I think in the PS 1192 they actually use terms like non-geometrical and alphanumerical. I think that is the term of the ISO 9650 right now. Yeah. So it's just not only on the geometrical side. So I think this is one of the common misconceptions, especially in our industry in Malaysia. Yeah. So people just think 3D modeling is BIM, and that's the only part. Yeah. So yes, definitely they might be able to see some of the advantages because they have better visualization. They can actually do clash detection, but then that is just a very small benefit of what BIM has to offer. Yeah. So if you are working in a collaborative, if you are using the right framework and everyone is collaborating using a common framework, so that actually has a very huge advantage. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All
We'll
right.
move on to the next one. Uh, we look into some companies trying to implement BIM. There are a lot of planning and preparation works, and if we are not really doing it well, I think we have a lot of issues like overhead costs, unplanned trainings, unclear process. So all this basically eventually will give us a lot of implications. So facing all this when we are implementing BIM, when we are facing, when we face all these challenges here, for sure there will be resistance, and over the years, I believe, as we continue to do the process, I believe it will be better. But it seems to be now we are looking at in Malaysia, we are looking at a few years down the road. There are still a lot of resistance over implementing BIM in the industry. What do you think these resistance are, and then how should we be looking at ways to overcome it?
All right. Yeah. So maybe let's dissect the word. Why do people actually resist? Okay. So normally when we implement anything, we need to actually put in lots and lots of effort. We need to put in lots of thoughts to it. Yeah, even a lot of resources. Actually, that would be the main concern. Yeah. So when we put in all of these uh, like resources, we definitely any business or any organization or any person, they need to see a return. Okay, so most of the people will resist because after putting all these resources, they might not see like that there's actually some benefits to it. Yeah, so this is something that I don't blame any companies. Yeah, but what the main reason why they are resistant is because they actually most implementers, they actually fail to understand the bigger picture of BIM. Okay, so there are certain organizations where they just use the 3D modeling, and they will claim themselves as using uh like like a full implementation. Yeah, so after investing a huge amount, they still will have a lot of wastage. They do not see the cost reduction that was promised. Yeah, so I think maybe their expectations are actually not too aligned. Yeah, so so if there's not much return, then definitely there will be resistance because they actually tried and they actually have failed. Yeah, and maybe one of the main resistance actually is I would say talking to many people in industry is that most people they actually fail to collaborate. Yeah, so having a common framework, for example. So if let's say if everyone has their own way of doing things, everyone is working in silo, yeah, it's actually very inefficient because everyone is when in terms of information exchange is actually very problematic because everyone is creating duplication, and when there's duplication of information, there's actually contradiction of information. Okay, so this is actually a huge waste, I would say. Yeah. So with all this wastage, that's why that the advantages are not, and in fact maybe there are even more work for them. So that's why there are resistance. So besides that, also I think one of the main resistance is also I mean to actually overcome this is the government is the policy of the nation. Okay, so if let's say if you look at for example in the UK, they have a very good policy where the government themselves they will act as like a client, and when they say they mandate BIM, they it's not a very not in a very forceful way, so that's why they have soft landings. So what I mean by soft landing is actually a very soft transition, how they can actually transit from the conventional way into the digital environment. Okay, yeah, and furthermore, also what their initiatives were like they act as a client themselves. So if let's say if you want the UK government projects, you have to be, for example, BIM level 2 ready. Yeah. So with that, that would actually encourage more and more people to actually implement BIM. Yeah. So, but overall, I think most of the countries uh, are not privileged as the UK. Yeah, which actually is they are much more far-sighted. But I think within projects themselves, if let's say if you use the proper framework, the proper method of collaboration, definitely I think you will see a lot of advantages and therefore less resistance. Yeah. So in
Yeah.
short, people need to see the advantage. You need to entice people with the benefits. Yeah, to overcome any resistance. Yeah. So that is my view about it.
Yeah. I think one of the resistance that I can recall is just to understand the ISO itself. Sometimes you will feel that it is very overwhelming because of the amount of the readings and amount of understanding that we need to understand. So I was thinking in the earlier years of my BIM exposure that is there a better way or is there a simplified way to do all this? But I'll share with you in a while. Yeah.
All right.
Let's go to the next questions. Yeah. Should we start somewhere, especially those beginners, those who just wanted to know how to start, what it's all about? Should we start somewhere and slowly find our way to ISO, or should it be let's learn the ISO first, see what it's all about, and then we decide whether we should jump in or not? So how should we start BIM, or rather, how should we find our way towards ISO?
All right. So starting somewhere, I think if let's say if we have a good direction, that is actually very valuable for any start. Yeah. So if let's say if we would want to run to a point, if let's say if we have a like a arrow pointing to the correct direction, that is actually very useful rather than running the opposite direction and actually backtracking. Yeah. So that is actually quite counterproductive. So this direction that I'm talking about is actually the ISO 19650, or you can even look into the PS 1192, which is actually like a free version. Yeah. So this actually is the international best practice of how you manage information in terms of BIM. Okay.
Mm.
So having a framework which gives you like the right terminology to actually communicate with other stakeholders is a very good start. And furthermore, I think this document it provides you it actually broadens your thinking. Yeah. So just not only on the modeling aspect, but about the processes of how information is flown. Yeah. So that is one of the very key aspects. The workflow is very important on how you actually authorize information, how do you actually store information. Yeah. So you will actually come across terms like the common data environment, which is the CDE. Yeah. So it actually is the way of how it's a collaborative platform, which is the single source of truth, where all the information is stored, and after that it will be exchanged. Yeah. So this is actually yeah, definitely I would strongly advise to go through these documents. Yeah, because it will give you a much bigger picture, especially for beginners. Yeah. So yeah, especially for beginners, you might come across many terms that you might be unfamiliar. Yeah. So but not to worry, I think after a while you might get used to it. Yeah. So we also do
Yeah.
have quite a lot of useful literature which actually strongly addressing the problems of beginners. So we have a very basic term and in along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about terms, that will bring us to the next questions. Looking at the BIM terminologies, some may have the impression that BIM is a new work program. Yeah, it is a new work process. Some may say that. So is BIM a new work process?
Hmm. Okay, so I think I did talk about the implementation of the UK government, how they actually act as a client and so on to actually drive the BIM industry in the nation. Okay, so that being said, this actually is nothing new, So that is actually I think how many years back? Maybe 6 to 8 years ago. Yeah. So 6 to 8 years ago, BIM Level 2 was created, and in fact, I think even in the USA, BIM is even longer than that. Yeah. So
Mm.
it's actually is nothing new. Okay. But one thing I'd like to clarify: this terminology is actually is based on the ISO 19650. Okay. So maybe different countries might use different terms. Okay. But I would like to highlight here why is it an ISO? Yeah, it's an international standard. So I think these terms it carries a lot of weightage. Yeah, because international. So yeah, so everyone should follow. Yeah, so it is the international standard. All right. Yeah. So yes, it's nothing new. But I think most people would think it's new because once in a while the terms might be updated according to the current industry practices. Okay,
Mm.
so if you like to understand more about terms, I think you can always look into the Little Book of BIM. So this is a very bite-sized information where you can it summarizes all of the acronyms, and I think along the way you can I think Dennis also will share more about the free resources you can get. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's move to the next questions. This is very true in all my trainings that I've gone through here. When we conduct our trainings, a lot of people will always ask these questions, and I believe is also quite true for some countries, because when we talk about BIM implementations of BIM, a lot of countries may start with government projects, because it is how the government want to encourage the industry to actively transfer from the traditional workflow, traditional method of working, and to a improved version or a better way of managing a projects, which is through BIM. So is BIM for big projects like government projects? How about smaller projects?
All right. Yeah. So I think most of the case study we see, the implementation of BIM, is for mega projects, for huge projects. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Definitely. I think for bigger projects, they definitely will get much more traction. Yeah, because yeah, they are big. Yeah. So, but if you see most of the implementers, what they actually do to start off BIM, okay, they do not straight away jump into a multi-billion dollar project. Yeah, because if there's any screw up, it's very devastating. And yeah, normally when we do things the first time, definitely there's a lot of things we can improve. Yeah. So most of these private companies, they actually choose a pilot project. Okay, a pilot project, something which is manageable, a very small scale project, and they will test out their processes, they will test out their methods, yeah, and from there they will see what can be improved, and along the way after that, learn taking the lessons learned, then only they will slowly scale it up. Yeah. So so it's not only for big projects, I would say, but you can actually use it for small projects as well, and furthermore for private projects is also very very beneficial. Yeah, because most of the private projects, especially the developers, they themselves will be maintaining the asset. Yeah, they will not hand it over to the next party. So by implementing BIM in private projects, they will actually get the information they need during the start, and they can actually use this for asset management. So the benefits are huge. Yeah. So I believe it's not only for big government projects, but also for any projects. Yeah, regardless of its size. Yeah, but it's just really depends on how you actually look into the bigger picture and not over invest on the software and the hardware, so you have to really be very prudent in that. Yeah.
I just to
Correct.
add to that, I have a very short story. I was in another company, and a very resistant company, not wanting to do any BIM, was in the same room as we were talking about how to choose the first BIM project for their company. And because they had seen it on lots of large projects, they thought that it would be funny and almost impossible to show any benefit if they gave us their smallest project. And their smallest project was essentially a few days where they would they'd close a road, they'd open up a hole in the road, they'd put a slab in, and they'd cast it, and then they'd resurface the road. And it was a large surface kind of water treatment, kind of redirection of this water. And we looked at each other and we were like, oh no, this is going to be terrible, because we're not going to show any savings, we're not going to see any benefits. But what actually happened was the top of the slab was going to be a precast slab, and there was an opening in the slab that had to correspond with the steps going down to be able to get into this manhole, essentially this very large manhole. And what we found with BIM was that the opening wasn't aligned in a way that they could actually access without having to kind of there was a lot of safety concern of having to kind of swing somebody around to be able to get onto the first rungs of these ladders. And as a result, they would have had to recast the slab, and they would have only recognized this when they were placing it on top of in that location. So we actually saved a huge mess just by turning these few 3D concrete boxes into BIM objects and understanding it. So you can save even on the smallest projects. Absolutely.
Yes, I strongly
All
agree.
right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
when we talk about savings, I think most people will have the misconception because of the high investment for the hardware, for the software, for the resources. Yeah, but something I would like to debunk also. I think when we discuss about the first question, which is BIM, building information modeling. Yeah, so when it comes to modeling, you do not need a very expensive authoring tool. Maybe just like a very basic one is enough. So that's why I think it's very important for us to look into the bigger picture of BIM. Yeah, you do not need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars just on the authoring tools. Yeah. So but definitely a good software would really improve the efficiency, but you have to see the bigger picture as well. Do you really need like a very big knife to actually cut like a small piece of meat? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so. Just
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether right now is the right time to share or not, but there are some comments in the chat and also in the Q&A, and I think that a lot of it is focused
Oh.
on. There was a great comment about running BIM on a small school project, 3 stories, 4 classrooms only, and really it just, as the comment says, it depends on what the client's expecting, and a lot of the other comments are around the exchange information requirements and that being key so that we are able to define winning BIM goals, things that the owner is going to get value from. And that's really, really important. That ties in with a Q&A, a question actually related to Plannerly, but it's really any definition of scope in a BIM or an information management project where you're managing that type of information. How do you define it? And when you talk about ISO 19650, you really have to have a clear purpose before you define any scope. There's a really, really solid message from that. What does the owner really care about to be able to run their business better, and have a clear purpose before you start creating models? Because you might be creating a lot of content, a lot of elements in the model that there's no customer for, and there's no benefit for that. And if you don't have a customer for your work, then you're not really doing any work. You're just wasting your time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally echo what Clive is saying, and that is actually one of the biggest problems in the Malaysian industry. Yeah, so people would just dive in and they want a BIM project, and all the consultants or the contractors doesn't really know the exact requirement. So it's very, very important to actually understand what the client needs. Yeah, if not, you are just wasting your time. Maybe you are undersupplying information or you're oversupplying. Yeah, so you never know. So it's very, very important to actually get this right during the start. Yeah, so it's yeah, I totally echo what you are
Yeah.
getting here.
Yeah. When it comes to project management, information management, I always like this. I would like to show this screen. It is about how do we create information at the first place, and then we always like to use different type of tools to create the information. So for example, word processor. Then we will go through a series of delivering the informations to the end user. So then we'll use some Excel sheets, spreadsheets to create some tables, schedules, trying to manage everybody's scope of works. Then we will basically print it out in PDF forms and distribute to everyone in a hard copy, and they will read through it in a hard copy. And then we get response from them through emails and different email accounts and different other software to get the feedbacks. And then from there we start to process it, and we try to weight it out, see which one is acceptable, which one is not. And then if everything is okay, then we will basically agree and sign the contract on a paper form, and then we send it back to them. And these are traditional tools of how we have been creating these informations. And just to explain all this, what happens is that we have to handle a lot of software. We need to get a lot of work on a different platforms, and sometimes all these printed copies, digital copies, will go missing. So there should be a better way of handling all this. So is this the right tool to manage all these informations? So this is one of the questions that I will throw. Then we'll explain a bit about that in a while. So to promote a better BIM in the practice, is there a better way to do this? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think I would like to talk about the image that you have shown earlier. So you can see actually I mean when it comes to information flow, it's actually pretty chaotic, especially in I would say in a medium-sized project. Yeah, because one of the main destruction of information flow is through emails. Emails destroy the credibility of information. Yeah, because there's no form of traceability. There's actually no form of accountability. Yeah, yeah. When you get the drawings from email, you always question yourself. Is this the right information? Is this the latest information? So this really affects the confidence level. Yeah, so I think having like a good common platform, or it could be a good common data environment is really the key into how we exchange information. Yeah, so I think this is a very good representation. Like, there's so many PDFs copied, there's so many emails. Like the fan is blowing around. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So back to the question, I think yeah. So how do we promote a better BIM in the industry? Yeah. So I think earlier I talk about like there are the three main elements which actually is highlighted in this diagram. So one of the main problems about BIM is often we just look into the technology aspect. Okay. Uh, yeah. So and not the technology aspect in terms of the 3D modeling. Yeah. So I don't blame anyone because it's a much more it's a representation which everyone can understand much more quickly. Yeah, so it's very beautifully aesthetic. It is very aesthetic. It's very pleasing to the eyes. Yeah, but actually it has to, all of these three elements has to work hand in hand. Okay, so I think in the previous question also I did mention a lot about the process, about the workflow. Yeah, but one element that I would really like to touch on actually is on the policies. Okay, so the national policies is actually one of the key into promoting a better BIM practice in the industry. Yeah, so national policies and of course also the international standard. So if let's say these two works hand in hand, it will fill in most of the gaps of the industry. Yeah. So what this does is actually it will share the best practices to all the stakeholders. Not only that, it actually creates a common framework, a common language where everyone can collaborate much more better. Yeah, because one of the I think earlier so I did mention that most people they actually fail to realize the full benefit of BIM because they have their own procedures, they have their own processes, they have their own way of managing information. But then when you look into the other stakeholder, they also have their own way. So everyone is working in silos. So when it's time to actually collaborate, it's actually a huge problem. So with the help of these national policies, with the help of this international standard, this will actually help to bridge all of the stakeholders. Yeah. So yes, policies is very important. Like also having guidelines like building standards, how we actually name our files. So this is actually a huge problem in all of the projects. Consultants can't agree what are the naming convention because they are so used to their own way. Yeah, so these are the few examples. Yeah, yeah. So all of these three elements has to work hand in hand in order to realize the full picture of BIM. Yeah, so not only just on the technology, but also of course on the workflow, on the processes. Yeah, and also definitely the policy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, just to manage informations between the three circles here, the policy sector, we can see that the regulatory bodies, when we need to submit plans to the regulatory bodies, to the authorities, sometimes there are a lot of information that we need to handle as well. Emails flying here and there just to get the feedback and the approval process. So there must be a way that we can actually simplify all these processes. And when we look into the process view, there's already there are a lot of players just to plan the project out, and then just to create that model and to create all the necessary drawings for constructions. There are a lot of processes involved, and many players to manage, from the consultants to the engineers to the suppliers and to all estimators, surveyors. So if we have a platform that is able to to simplify all this process, and a common platform that enable us to come together and to communicate and to store data, to exchange informations, and that will be a very good platform to work with, and it will basically simplify the entire process of information exchange. So and that's why we need a very strong technology that, to support this process. Yeah. So okay, so let's move on. Where can I get ISO training for ISO 19650 training? So there are a lot of things to learn. So where can we get training? Here we would like to share with you where the training, what kind of training resources that we have now in this region, in Malaysia. The first one that I would like to share is for those who want to start your BIM journey, you can basically register with our university, where we conduct a fundamental training for beginners. Then the next one is the professional training from BSI. Maybe Wilson, you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think one of the main problems in industry, I've met companies which call themselves being consultants, for example, and they claim to be like a BIM expert. So often I will get that kind of like the kind of response. Yeah, so what we're offering here in our courses is actually basically a very neutral course, which is solely based on the ISO 19650. What you are learning actually is the concepts and principles of interpreting the standards. Yeah, so it's a very high level information, and I think most of all, if you go to the next slide. Yeah, so we also have a qualification program. So after taking the respective modules, you will have like a badge to call yourself like a BIM project information practitioner. Yeah, so if you take up more of the courses, you'll be upgraded to a professional and a certified professional. So this certified professional is basically shows the industry that you are well versed in a standard. And if you see there's a word there, evidence. So what we are actually doing is not only you are taking the exams and you have passed it to basically it shows that you understand the principles of the ISO 19650, but also you are showing evidence in your actual practice. Yeah, so it shows that you already have been successful in implementing BIM, and this will tell that it will carry a very good weightage, and furthermore, this badge is not only just for international level. So as you know, BSI, we are not only just in the UK, but we are everywhere in the country. So especially in the Middle East, we are quite well known there. So this badge will be recognized globally. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where you get the training from. I believe there are a lot also in our platform itself. In Plenary, we have two resources that we have been keep sharing in every webinar that we conduct. There are two resources here. One is the basic BIM, where you can basically watch the video clips, and you basically know that how BIM starts, how we can use Plenary to start to learn BIM and how to use it properly. And there are also, and the second source is actually for those who wanted to know more and to understand how to use the platform as an expert. So maybe Clive, if you want to share a bit about the resources.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we have the basics course, which is pretty much as you described, it's more software based, but it's process using the software for ISO 19650. And then the masterclass, that's really much more focused on a company deploying, and when they're going for ISO 19650 certification, for example, or if they're trying to deploy better, more integrated workflows in their company. The masterclass is 4 sessions that are focused on specific topics ranging from planning a BIM execution plan to verifying your deliverables. And it's a one-on-one. It's with one of our team, and it's actually pretty fun. We make the BIM process quite a lot of fun to go through that as a team as well. And you'll get a certificate at the end of it as well. So, yep, that's available to everyone. You can find out more online, and if there are any questions, we can definitely answer any.
Yeah. Okay. So ISO 19650 comes with a lot of templates, as what Clive was saying just now. Inside our plenary platform, we have these templates ready for you. So when you join a free account or the trial account with plenary, you'll be able to find this inside the module itself. And from time to time, we are updating these templates. And with these templates, it is a drag and drop function, so you will find it very beneficial to understand ISO 19650. Now, we simplify.
I can just add on to the previous slide. So I think one of the questions is, where do we start when we want to implement BIM? I think looking at these templates from plenary is very, very useful, because it immediately gives you all the definition, immediately gives you all of the layout. So that would be I think a very great start, to have all these templates readily available. I wish that I have this when I was learning what is this framework about. There's something I'd like to add on.
And let's not take any of the credit. These are managed by about 200 teams across the world that are BIM experts, that are implementing ISO 19650. So they're continually improving. And if you are either just starting and want to get access to the templates, you can. Or if you are a BIM professional and you've been doing ISO 19650 workflows on your projects forever, then we'd love you to join the team and to contribute your knowledge so that they can continue to improve for everyone. As Dennis mentioned earlier, it's sometimes very challenging to get just started. So this is a great starting point. And thanks, Wilson, for your kind comments. I think that there are some team members as well from BSI contributing. So we're excited to do this together.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, and Clive, I heard from Dennis also, it's like there's actually templates for different regions as well. Yep. So it's like everyone is contributing for their respective region. So this is not only just from one person, but it's actually a collective idea. So it's actually really pretty awesome.
Each language and version will come out. They're starting to come out so that you'll not just have localized language, but you'll also have localized standards. Now, when it comes to
requirements,
talking about ISO 19650, obviously there's a very big push to align that, but there are local annexes that will be needed to understand and be understood as well, so that they can be implemented in that language in that country. But along with, for example, the information protocol, all the great work that has come out of the UK is now being leveraged around the world, and that's really another channel for that to occur. So we beckon people to get involved.
Totally agree.
This is one of the very interesting. This is one of the very exciting facts about plenary, and what makes us involved with plenary nowadays is looking into how do we create localized standards, for this country, and then promoting the platform and to encourage more people to join us in the platform, so we can contribute towards drafting, towards creating these standards for our country for the industry. So we basically look into the ISO 19650. We have actually conducted a few webinars in Bahasa Malaysia. For some of you who like to listen to our national language, Bahasa Malaysia, you can actually go into plenaries.com slash webinar, and you'll find Bahasa Malaysia training videos in our Malaysian tab. So just to elaborate more about the ISO 19650 workflow, we have basically looked into the 8 workflow, and we simplify the entire platform, entire workflow into 6 modules, into 7 modules, 8 modules, sorry, 8 modules. So with this module, it is a drag and drop function. You can start with any modules that you like. Some people will start it with just a scope module, and then with a track module. Some will start with a plan module. So at different level of your learning curve, you can use the platform. If you are just a beginner, you may just want to use scope first, just to create the scope and the task, or you want to just use Planary for creating paperworks. You may want to use the plan modules, or some of you may want to use the platform just to track and to schedule your work, so, or to verify the work. So you can start with any modules. Then you'll find your ways, and when you improve from projects to another projects, this is where the fun comes in. So we have been teaching this and we'll be teaching this to a lot of our students in UCTS, those who are enrolling in our university. This is part of the teaching process that we are implementing for the students. So when they graduate, they'll be BIM ready for the industry. So we want to thank Planary for empowering us, the universities, with the platform for the education purposes. Yeah. So I really thank you, Planary. Yeah. Yeah.
We love to support education and any opportunity that we can do that around the world, because this is the next generation of project managers, of professionals coming out from, and that are in industry already, but learning and implementing these workflows because they're on some of the most prestigious BIM courses around the world in information management. And that really is a big desire of ours, to connect not just the technology side, but the process. And I think that it's important to say that we have a great standard. We have some great templates. So thanks BSI, thanks for the templates team. But there's also the requirement to have a workflow, a process, and that's what we saw in the diagram, where there's a Word document here and a few Excel documents everywhere else, and maybe you PDF them and send them an email, and maybe you get something back in another email. That is an unmanageable workflow, and it is really time consuming for teams to implement using technology that's not been built for our workflows. So that's really where we're focused, and that's where we take feedback from teams that are implementing around the world, and anything that we as a team and as a software company can do to make that life easier, then that's what we want to hear from. So if there are any thoughts, anything that we can do, and I love the fact that a line of code can be written and then used by millions of people. That is leveraging the power of technology, the power of web, and the power of that ability to not share, not just keep something for themselves. So that opportunity, if there's anything that people can help us and throw fuel on that fire, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. This slides is showing the next episode 6, Clive. Your episode 6 will be on air in the 1st of September.
But yeah, this is an ISO 19650 webinar series specifically on the workflow, and it helps to understand and unpack ISO 19650, but also for each of those 8 steps. So from the assessment and need right the way through to the last one that we'll see is project closeout, and learning, lessons learned. How do you not just keep doing the same thing and same thing and same thing, but how do you learn from it, apply that to your templates? How do you get better starting data? How do you not just fall apart as a project team at the end of the project? How do you keep that knowledge and retain that? So that's the next episode starting. I think that's on September 1st.
Yeah. So do register. You can see there's a QR code there. You may just screenshot or take your phone out and scan the QR code, and you'll be able to register for the next coming webinar, which is the 1st of September. So we have also a lot of other other webinars. This is in Bahasa Malaysia. You can see that it is in our national language in Bahasa Malaysia. We have been translating the ISO 19650 presentation webinars in Bahasa Malaysia, and with some localized contents. So you may want to check it out by just registering. So we will be running the last episodes of the same video, the same presentation in Bahasa Malaysia on the 15th of September. So do scan the QR code and register for this webinar. We are also very, very privileged, and we are very excited about the next coming webinar, where the staff from the university is joining me for the next new episode. This is the best BIM practices, where we will be exploring module by module. Each module, how do we use this module to basically carry out our everyday tasks in BIM planning, starting from projects, then scope, then so forth. So this is happening next month. So for those who have registered with us, you'll be receiving our invitation email to invite you to register for this best BIM practices. So this is a localized Malaysian content. So there'll be some very exciting content we would like to share with you. Yeah. So the next one, so you can register by scanning the QR code on the screen there. And the next one is if you have any other Q&A, I think this is the time that we might want to answer some questions. Maybe do we want to open up the questions now, or we can handle the questions in other sessions? Clive?
Absolutely, yeah. I think I've tried my best to answer some questions as we've gone through. I know I've missed a few, but I loved hearing, about, as we unpacked the whole workflow. I made some notes as we were going, and just to kind of think about what you talked about, and I've got a few questions that might pop up as well. But the concept of BIM straight away, you introducing that it's about information management, not just modeling, and then better information management, better information modeling. The whole concept of improving through continuous improvement and feedback loops that are inherent inside of a BIM workflow, as long as you apply it in the right way. The resistance to change, and I think that I heard, Wilson, you said it's about seeing the advantages, and my question to you is, what are the primary advantages that if somebody's just starting, what should they go for? What would be the first few things that they should aim at achieving in implementing BIM? The quick wins, what would they be?
All right, I think I will just make it very basic. So I will just use one line to describe this. So begin with the end in mind. Yeah, so begin with the end in mind. So what you're actually trying to do is, when you are crafting the way how information flow, the way the processes of and all the routings, the mapping, So you always need to look into what do you want in the end result. Okay, what does the client wants in the end result? Yeah, so I think that would be a much better question. Yeah, so begin with the end in mind. So that is very, very important into executing. And I think that is actually the simplest principle. And it has the biggest advantage. Yeah, if you think in the end in mind, you already know that the client, for example, wants he wants a green certification, and we know that BIM can actually help in that. Yeah, so that from there you need to actually ask all the right questions. So begin with the end in mind. Yeah, it's very, very simple.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. That's great advice. And that prompts you to think about what the end should be as well. And the whole of the ISO 19650 workflow, we talked about purpose, and what is that purpose? That is the end goal. So how can you, a question to everyone, how can you define what those end goals should be? What in order to, because there's not just a reluctance maybe in the community to provide BIM, but there's a maybe a not being fully aware about the potential advantages from a business perspective for clients to ask for. So the appointing party, how can we help them to define what those requirements should be, what the end goals should be? Any ideas there? Anything that jumps to mind?
Yeah, so I think I mean, if you look into the ISO 9650, it's actually a very very strategic framework, and yeah, so according to that framework, yeah, I think you might come across the term. Sorry, I'm going a bit more technical. You come across the word PIR. Okay, so that is the project information requirement. Yeah, so this is actually is these are the questions you need the client, the appointing party or the client needs to ask themselves, yeah, before they even think of starting a like a BIM project. Yeah, like a very simple method like this will have a very big impact during the end, because what this actually triggers is you are actually listing down all of the right requirements so that this can actually hand over to uh, along the supply chain and along the processes. Yeah, so asking the right question is very very important. Yeah, into implementing this right. Yeah, I think
Very
that the
cool.
answers. Yeah,
Yep.
so definitely the PIR, and definitely yeah, so that is actually the key into getting uh, the right beam. Yeah.
Yeah, all culminates in the exchange information requirements and the organizational information requirements, the project information requirements, the asset information requirements, all of
Yes,
those requirements.
I will not go into that. Yeah, yeah.
All of those
Yes,
requirements
actually, yes. If you look into the ISO, all of those requirements. So it's just not the one that I explained is actually just the PIR. But actually, you have like a according to ISO, there's actually 6 boxes. So the PIR, EIR, OIR, AIR, then you will get uh, uh, AIM and PIM. Yeah, so that actually all of it links. Yeah, but I would say the most important aspect will be the PIR. I mean, this is something where most of the beginners can start off from. But of course, if you want to look into the whole advantage, in terms of the long term, yeah. So the OIR, AIR is actually the organization strategy, the asset strategy. Yeah, what do you plan to actually do do uh, do about it, and from there you will have like a like a way of how you can actually repeat it in the future projects. Yeah, so those all actually has to work hand in hand. Yeah, you're right.
great,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I
Great.
and I realized that we're up against our time, but there
Okay.
was it's not just for big projects. That's another takeaway.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
if you think about all of the work that's been done by teams around the world already, leverage that first. We shared a few links here. I'm sure that Dennis, you'll share
Yes.
some more links, but
Yeah.
you're not alone. There's a lot of resources out there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the thing that we will take from this session is basically BIM is not creating the workflow is very important for us as we move along and as we learn. So it is easier to start with, this is my opinion, it's easier to start with a smaller projects. Let's develop the workflow, the how we work with each other, between the appointed parties and appointed parties, between consultants and suppliers. Let's work out how we can work together and through a common platform. And one of the platform that we want to introduce to everyone is Plenary, the BIM management platform. So from this platform, we can create that kind of workflow from a smaller project. And as we, and with the same platform and with ISO 19650, one of the very important module that I'm very excited to learn and to keep repeating doing that module is the lesson learned. So by learning from the current project and by recording it properly inside the platform, we'll be able to improve from one project to the other, and the improvement will continue to goes on, and our project will grow bigger and bigger. That is for sure. So we want to thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be going through all the questions, and if we will be going on air again with Wilson, we'll be answering these questions in the next session. Yeah. So thank you for everyone for joining in today. Thank you, Clive, for coming in and share your valuable resources with us today.
Thank you for sharing yourselves, because that was great to listen to you guys chatting. Thank you very much for sharing, Wilson. Yeah, a lot of knowledge from the BSI that everyone around the world really thanks.
Thanks, Wilson, for this wonderful session. Yeah?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, so we'll see you again in the coming webinar. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye bye. Bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye.